And I don't think he realized, and a lot of mentors don't realize the impact that they have on people's lives. He was shocked at how much he had impacted my life until I told him.
Hey there, high performers. This is Dr. Josh Funk. In this podcast, I will be interviewing people from the sports and business world who have experienced hardship and come out on top. Through their challenges, strategies, and mindset, I hope that it will give you the tools you need to perform for life. Dave, so hey, first just want to say thanks for being on here and taking the time today. You have been tremendous for me. As a mentor, it has been pretty awesome to watch your steady progression as a professional ever since knowing you, and overall just the growth of SoldierFit into one of the fastest growing fitness companies in the world. So thanks for being on here today.
I appreciate it. Glad to be on here.
So for those of you who don't know, Dave is one of those people that makes entrepreneurship look relatively easy. Having known him for a couple years now, I know that that's not always the case, but he's always seems like he's in control, calm under pressure. He almost makes it look like he was built for entrepreneurship. Dave, talk to me a little bit about some of your background and some things that may have set you up for success as a young entrepreneur. You had mentioned some of the people in your family that kind of showed you the way.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I make it look easy, because it's certainly not that. That's for sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't really have a rags to riches story. I was provided with an incredible family, very supportive home life, provided with a lot of good opportunities that I took advantage of. It's nice because I come from a family background of business owners. So my grandfather owned a business, a sporting goods business in Indiana. My dad and grandfather owned a business in Washington, D.C., a bakery delicatessen. So I think obviously, I don't want to say I was born to do it, right? But I got to see that as a kid and how all that things worked for the good and the bad, right? I grew up here locally. I was born in Indiana, so I lived there for 30 years, but I've been in Maryland my entire life. I was lucky enough to go to college, compete in athletics, and I think athletics piece of it certainly molded a lot of where I am today, and kind of helped me not only with the entrepreneurship, but also the character building and things like that athletics do.
I think one of the benefits of athletics is it puts us in a position where we find these mentors at early ages. Somebody that you had referenced in a previous conversation was Randy Trivers. I thought that was very interesting for me. The middle school that I went to, Roberto Clemente Middle School, half of the kids there and half the people that I played football with growing up actually played for him at Northwest High School. He was at Wooten before. He had coached you. Talk to me a little bit about what that early mentorship looked like and how that translated into you just kind of carving out your identity as a young professional and how that might play into your success now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mentorship is super important. And a lot of the mentorship isn't just on the knowledge that the person gives you, it's the belief, right? Belief in somebody can go a long way. I think playing athletics, I've always had a lot of confidence. However, to have a mentor that really believes in you and pushes you to do better goes a tremendously long way. I mean, by no means was I a bad kid at all, but I think, Coach Travers really helped me stay focused, both athletics and academics, and kind of go to the right path. And so he was great. I mean, he was very actively involved in his players' lives. So, right, I mean, coaching is what he does. He's there to build a football team. His job isn't to spend time individually with the players to get to know them, but he took that extra step to do it. And that's really the beautiful thing about having a great mentor and the extra that they give back.
Is that something that you felt like was very natural? Was that something you went out of your way to seek? What was that process in terms of that mentee-mentor relationship? And then honestly, how did that carry on after you all went your different ways? He went to Northwest High School, then a collegiate career. You went on to a collegiate playing career on your own. What was that relationship like, and how was that really formed?
Yeah, I don't know if it was because he saw extra potential in me, but I mean, it wasn't anything that I seeked out, right? It was him, taking the time and investing the time to guide me into the right direction, guide me in the right path. we still keep in touch. I wish I could keep in touch a lot more than I have, but I just visited him a few months back at Gonzaga, and we talked. And I don't think he realized, and a lot of mentors don't realize the impact that they have on people's lives. He was shocked at how much he had impacted my life until I told him.
Yeah, and I think if I can speak a little bit about our relationship, I think I've been pretty transparent with regards to the role that you've had in my development as a young professional, young business owner. Me definitely considering you and your co-founder at SoldierFit, Danny, to be mentors of mine. I think the ability to seek out that individual and sometimes taking gems from conversations that maybe that person didn't think was that profound at that given moment, but I can think of certain times where I probably took a lot more value from a conversation than even you or Danny had thought that you had given to me. Something that I think that is very, very unique between the two of you is your dynamics. I read a book called Rocket Fuel recently. I know you and Danny went through the EOS book with Gino Wickman, and this is a book also written by Gino Wickman, and it talks about the dynamics between a visionary, which I would definitely consider to be more of Danny, and the integrator. Talk to me a little bit about those dynamics. You could even get back to your origins, meeting Danny during the Fitness First days. But how did you guys find your own version of Rocket Fuel?
That's a good question. I mean, I think I guess I'll take a step back here. I had always thought growing up that you need to take your weaknesses and work on them until they're your strengths, right? But I've realized that you need to embrace your strengths, and especially in business, and find somebody who can cover your weaknesses, right? And that's what teamwork's all about. And I think me and Danny just kind of naturally, fell into that. I mean, we started off as best friends, and then we obviously developed this business relationship. But yeah, I mean, Danny's the super outgoing guy. He can walk into a room and just encapsulate it and just take over, right? Not that I can't by any means, but that's just his personality, right? And as the integrator, as you say, and Gino Wickman talks about in Attraction, somebody has to be the visionary, right? And somebody has to have these great ideas. But if they're just great ideas and not actually put into action, they're just ideas.
Right. And the integrator often gets called the executioner, right? So you take those, right, like you said, the grandiose ideas, and you make them a reality. Talk to me a little bit about kind of the origins of SoldierFit. What was it like with you all's early relationship, these early ideas, and what do you think really allowed you to be what I hear they're calling sticky? You had this sticky idea, and it definitely showed some traction in the marketplace early on.
Yeah, I mean, so we started out SoldierFit as just it was almost like an online training business, right? It was me and him just. We wanted to start a business. We looked into doing it. We both had full-time jobs. It then elevated into personal training. So Danny was really the one he was doing all the grind work. He was training the clients from day up, sun up to sundown. He had a full-time job. I had a full-time job. And then that evolved into us doing boot camp. And at first, again, it was Danny that kind of took it and ran with it. I had a full-time job, and he had came. It was actually a conversation that we had. Really, the business was on that stage, right, of whether it was going to stay at the status quo or whether we're going to take that big leap for growth. And in order to do so, we needed to be all in. And at that time, I wasn't all in. I had a full-time job at the time, so I saw Danny's vision. I saw what we were trying to build, and I quit my full-time job. I took a $70,000 pay cut. It was right at the time that I just bought a house, so the timing couldn't have been better, right, as they say. So
sure, it was
a scary time. It was a scary time for me, and it was obviously the best decision that I ever made. We had 2 locations at the time. Now we have 16 plus locations. We've built an amazing team around us. And things couldn't have been better.
Yeah, you guys are in a great spot. As I mentioned earlier, one of the fastest growing fitness companies in the world. It's really just been admirable to just kind of sit back and watch and be a part of it and interact with your team. I imagine there have been some hardships as well. I know we talked a little bit about athletics earlier, knowing your previous injury history, knowing how we can learn a lot about ourselves during challenges through athletics. What was it about some of your challenges through injuries during athletics that you think maybe better prepared you from some of those early hardships with SoldierFit?
Yeah, I mean, I stayed healthy a lot of my career. Sprained my MCL in college, tore my hamstring. It's funny because I had my worst injury out of college playing flag football. Go figure, right? I tore my Achilles, and that was a rough one. I think with anything, injuries, right, as you said, they transition into life. It's a setback. That's exactly what it is, but nothing's permanent. So I guess trying to encapsulate and take what I learned from an injury, other than resilience and just kind of fighting through.
Yeah. No, I mean, sometimes, right, they could give you a sense of a new routine or a new appreciation for some of the little things that maybe you've been overlooking. When I think about some of the injuries that I've had in terms of how it might translate to some of the business hardships, it's put me in a better position to handle some of the adversity because I had been used to handling the adversity before. When I think about hardships from a business standpoint, sometimes they're a result of things that we could have been in control of. Much like with some of the injuries, there are qualities that we can do to enhance our ability to perform while reducing our risk of injury. So I look at some of the parallels from a business standpoint, and at least recognizing certain things that maybe we needed to spend more time on or focus on or polish a little bit more to allow us to grow in a more sustainable fashion. You guys have done a great job growing in a sustainable fashion. What do you think are some things that have allowed you to not only grow, but grow in a healthy fashion and in a manner which allows you to not end up belly up?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us really is our passion for what we do, right? I mean, we're certainly customer first, right? I mean, we want to take care of our clients, right? No matter what business you're in, that has to be first and foremost. So just delivering an amazing customer experience, making sure you're on top of those things, but also building your team, right? Your customers here, but your team and your staff and your employees are almost equally as important. They're the ones driving, right? Those are the ones that are interacting with the customers day in and day out. Those are the ones that's going to help you grow. So you need those people to essentially take their current role, build them up into bigger roles to be able to take on that next step.
Yeah, and I think I can take from that and at least talk about our role with regards to Rehab to Perform. It was one thing to have this idea of what this high quality service looked like, and then it's a whole another thing to put people in place and ideally the processes in place to allow things to function a little bit more automatically, and ideally that's as a result of the level of autonomy that your people had. When you talk about people, I think you all have been great about hiring people that really, really fit your workplace culture. What do you think are some, or what recommendations do you have for people who are trying to have a really authentic and ideally effective workplace culture?
Yeah, well, I'll kind of hit on what you talked about before as far as automation process. Very, very important and very important for growth and scalability, but we're both in a service industry, right? So there is that human element no matter what. Having automation allows your employees to do things easier, but you really have to hire, and if you've read Tony Hsieh, author of Delivering Happiness,
okay,
I believe is the name of the book.
I've heard
if you
of
haven't picked that up, make sure you pick that up.
Yep.
He talks about culture fit and hiring for culture. So forget anything else, forget skill, forget all that stuff first. If the individual doesn't fit in your culture, if they don't believe in your vision and believe in your mission, they're not a good fit. That's number one. All of those other tangible things, that can be taught, right? That can be changed. But if they're not on board with that, you're not going to grow.
Right. And I'm drawing a blank of the book right now. I want to say it's Energy Bus, but I'm not quite sure. But putting the right people on the bus, and then when you put the right people on the bus, those are people that are going to fit your culture. Ideally, figuring out what seat they might be best suited for.